Once upon a time, in a field full of delicious crops, there was a problem. A giant bird swooped down from the sky every day to eat all of the plump, juicy insects. It was big and mean and scary, and the insects were too small and weak to do anything about it. They were terrified of its sharp beak and its powerful talons. Its shadow would loom over the field, and they would scatter and hide wherever they could. Amongst them was a little cricket who thought of herself as rather smart. She watched as the other insects got caught and eaten one by one, and she knew that if she didn't come up with a good plan soon, she might be next, so she started to think. What could a tiny insect like her do against such a fearsome bird? Now, crickets usually don't live in groups. They prefer to be on their own, and they certainly wouldn't work together. But this cricket knew that in order to outsmart the bird, she would need help, and she would need lots of it. She knew just what to do. She went to see the colony of ants close by and asked them if they would help her. "Oh please," she said, "if that giant bird eats me, my life will be over. But you have nothing to lose. You can fight him and then go back to your daily routines." The ants considered this, and although they were afraid of the bird, they were also very brave. So they promised the cricket that they would protect her. Then they all marched off to tell the other insects to come and meet at the field in front of the crops where the bird always landed. First, she went to the grasshoppers. "Please help me," she said. "If that bird eats me, my life will be over. But you have nothing to lose. You can fight him and then go back to hopping around the fields." The grasshoppers liked the sound of that, so they joined the plan. Next, she went to the colony of beetles. "Please help me," she said. "If that bird eats me, my life will be over. But you have nothing to lose. You can fight him and then go back to rolling your balls." The beetles didn't really want to participate, but when the cricket pointed out that the bird had been eating their larvae and eggs, they suddenly remembered how angry they felt and joined the rest. And so it went on. The cricket asked the butterflies, the moths, the bees, and all of the other insects to come and join the plan. At first, they all refused, but she kept asking until they all agreed to come to the field in front of the crops when the bird arrived. The cricket then went back to the ants and told them they were ready. Together, they waited patiently until they saw the bird circling above them. When it landed in the field, the ants rushed forward and started biting and stinging its legs and wings. The bird squawked in pain and surprise and tried to take off again, but the ants were too many and too fierce. It struggled and flapped its wings harder, kicking up dust everywhere. In its panic, it knocked over a nearby plant and crushed several of the ants. But more kept coming from under the crops, and the bird couldn't fight them all. It cried out in frustration and anger and tried to strike out at the ants with its beak. That gave the other insects their chance. The grasshoppers bounced onto its back and started biting and stinging its neck. The beetles rolled into balls and slammed themselves against its body. The bees stung its eyes. The moths tangled themselves in its feathers, and the butterflies fluttered in its face until it was completely blinded. The bird screeched and flapped its wings wildly, knocking over more plants and sending the insects flying. It tried to shake them off, but there were simply too many, and it couldn't get to the ground to escape them. It started to panic. The cricket watched this all unfold and couldn't help but smile. The plan was going perfectly. Soon, it would be the bird's end. But then, the cricket noticed something odd. The bird wasn't scared or trying to get away. It was looking around as if it was confused and disoriented. Then it did something unexpected. It stopped struggling and stood still, lowering its head and closing its eyes. It looked defeated. The cricket was taken aback by this sudden change, but she continued watching cautiously. After a moment, the bird opened its eyes and looked around as if it was seeing the world for the first time. It cocked its head and chirped softly. And that's when the insects realized what had happened. When the bird had landed in the field, it must have been blinded by the dust kicked up by the ants. It had struggled and flapped its wings frantically, which made it dizzy. It had lost its balance and crashed into the plants. That had made it faint. And now, when it regained consciousness, it was completely disoriented and couldn't figure out where it was or why the insects were on top of it. The cricket was amazed at what had happened. It hadn't been an easy victory, but she had to admit that it was even better than she had imagined. Now that the bird was confused and afraid, they could finish it off. But looking at its frightened eyes, she couldn't help but feel a twinge of sympathy for it. She understood what it meant to be small and helpless in the face of danger. So instead of finishing it off, she had an idea. "Hey, stop attacking it," she called out to the other insects. They all paused and looked at her in confusion, but they listened anyway. "This bird doesn't know where it is or what's going on," the cricket said. "It's just scared and disoriented. If we leave it alone, it'll probably fly away before it hurts itself or any of us." The other insects looked at each other and then at the bird. They saw that it was indeed scared and confused, and they agreed to let it go. The cricket waved her hand for the ants to move away from its legs and the grasshoppers to jump off its back. As the bird slowly regained its senses and took off into the air, it looked back at them curiously. It chirped softly and flew in circles around them, as if thanking them for not attacking it. Then it disappeared into the vast expanse of the sky. The insects watched it go in silence, each lost in thought. They had never worked together like this before, and they couldn't believe they had managed to scare off such a huge and dangerous bird. The cricket smiled proudly. She had convinced them all to come together and help each other. And it had paid off. "Well done, everyone," she said. "We may be small, but when we work together, we can achieve anything." The other insects cheered and celebrated their victory, and they all became friends. From that day on, they continued to live in their fields, working together to protect each other and their homes. And the giant bird never came back. And so that is the story of how a little cricket outsmarted a giant bird. It's a tale about bravery, friendship, and the power of working together. It reminds us that even the smallest among us can achieve great things when we unite our strengths and face our fears head on. Did you like this story? If you want to hear another story, click here.